Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running talk show on computers and technology. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day so far. And, well, we can, carry you out of this busy work week. If you've been paying attention to the news, which we are probably not going to be talking about most of it, but my goodness, what a long week this has been for, I feel like, everyone. So, no, we're going to have fun today. We have a great guest. We have, of course, Popzara magazine, Nathan Evans, the one and only, joining us. You can hear him in the background there a little bit. And, yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun with it as we get started here with Computer America. By the way, I am your host, Ben Crossman. And yeah, a few things we should tell you about before we get started. If this is your first time listening to Computer America, well, congratulations. You stumbled upon the best kept secret of the tech industry, in that we don't tell anyone. But with that being said, a few things that you should know about are include, of course, computeramerica.com, which is where you will find anything and everything having to do with today's show, including the show notes, which will have links to all the articles, everything that we talk about here today, any videos or anything like that that we hit up will be included in the show notes. Also on the program, or also at the website, you'll find social media contests, which, by the way, we will be giving away a prize from Logitech. Doing that later on in the show. One lucky listener will be getting that in the mail here in the next couple of weeks. Very simple, very easy to do, and we encourage everyone to go enter. And the last thing is the video portion, which we are super proud of. Go check that out. It's underneath the live stream here at Computer America. It's the entire show, but you get to see my face. So, better for worse, that's what it is. Now, with all that out of the way, I want to jump into today's guest because he is the master of the rant. He is a lot of fun to talk to, and always. While I don't always agree with the opinions, I think most people find at some point they say, "But Nathan, that's not right." That's okay. He has his own opinions. We love that, and we love talking with him every single month here, last Friday of the month. And welcome onto the program once again, Nathan Evans. Nathan, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Ben, what's going on? And by the way, I apologize for the clickety-clack. I forgot to switch over to my 12th Bluetooth keyboard, so you got me.
Yeah, keyboards are, there's a lot of them, but, hey, mechanical keyboards, I can't fault you.
By the way, what is this? I don't agree with everything you say. Are you holding back? No.
Yeah.
If you had the Pope on, would you say that about the Pope? Like, His Holiness, I don't agree with everything he says, but the Catechism is pretty cool.
Well, as an institution, it's been around for a while, like Popzara, but
it's got its bonuses.
Right. But no, again, happy to have you on. A lot of fun to talk to, and of course, a lot happening over at popzara.com. If you wanted to go check that out, we have a link in the show notes. But it's a lot, and before we jump into the topics, I kind of wanted to get your take. I know I'm a couple weeks late. But just this last weekend, I went to go see the new Spider-Man, which, holy goodness, I'm sure it was said long before I'm saying it now, but thank goodness they didn't do another origin story, because that would have been atrocious.
You mean the latest Spider-Man, which inserts the web crawler into the Avengers universe?
Yes, sir. The Homecoming.
Yes, the one with Michael Keaton as the Vulture.
Yeah, that's and I think he played a really good villain, but it's hard, like, especially in the Marvel universe, to make something like the Vulture really seem devious when you have a planet.
He's Batman. He's Batman. He's
Yeah.
always been my Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, truth be told, Ben, I haven't seen it, although I will.
Okay.
I haven't seen a lot of films this theater, but I did see Wonder Woman. Apparently,
Yeah.
a lot of people saw Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I Did you go and quality aside, I liked it, and I'm sure I'll like Spider-Man. I
Mm-hmm.
did not really care for the last two Spider-Man films. I won't lie to you. I'm
Right.
glad they're gone, but we wiped them away. But have you seen any of the trailers from San Diego Comic-Con? And by any, I mean specifically two. The trailer for Justice League and the trailer for Ready Player One.
I have not seen the Justice League. I did see Ready Player One. That's like the day that the Ready Player One trailer came out, everyone was, standing ovation on the internet. I assume everyone was standing. It's the internet, of course, but
Or sitting comfortably at
right.
a position.
I mean, people were
office chair.
excited. People were definitely like the fact that I think I heard about Ready Player One, and the fact that I completely missed the Justice League trailer. Like, I hope that doesn't, kind of say anything. But I mean, what'd you think? I mean, did they kind of get you excited?
Well, a little bit, but I didn't bring up the third trailer, which is the trailer for Netflix's Stranger Things 2, season 2.
Right.
The one with Michael Jackson's Thriller playing in the background. But it's funny? When I saw the trailer for Ready Player One, it said they quoted the director Steven Spielberg as a cinematic game changer, and they called the book, I forget the writer's name, but they called the book The Holy Grail of Pop Culture. And you're watching the trailer, and you see creatures like, you see Freddy Krueger, you see Duke Nukem, you see what looks like Harley Quinn, you
Mm-hmm.
see Bigfoot, the Back to the Future jet, you see Knight Rider, you see you see the bike from Akira, all this stuff. It's all nostalgia, right?
Right.
And I haven't read the book, but apparently people who read it said it's really great. And you need to see it. So I'm going to hold my breath. The fact that Spielberg can do it and get away with it, I enjoy. But
Yeah.
I remember liking that stuff the first time.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's not nostalgia for me. It's my memories.
Yeah, I mean, it's our Linux correspondent. He has been on me for the past 2 months to go read the book because he knew that the movie was coming out, and he's like, you have to go read the book before you go see the movie. Which, to an extent, I agree with, but I don't know. I'm one of those people that as soon as I see I saw the movie adaptation of the Lord of the Rings, and now I have no interest in going back and reading the novels. Like it's I don't know. I don't want to say it's ruined for me. It's just kind of, the movies are now my reference point. The book is something additional. So I don't know. But
you are not alone on that, by the way. A lot of people's reference points are films, and I think that's what things like Stranger Things and Ready Player One are. They're basically, I hate to say it, Ben,
hmm
it's a recognition that people really don't read that much anymore, and their callbacks are now 80s television
yeah,
and video games, and I guess that's okay, but it is what it is.
it's more good. It's I mean, heck, Computer America here. We downsized from 2 hours to 1 hour. We recognize that asking someone to take 2 hours out of their day for us wasn't as possible anymore because media is so compact. I mean, an hour is still a pretty big ask, but I feel that's more manageable. I mean, people sitting down to read, it doesn't have to be a long, engaging thing, but it used to be a long, engaging process of an hour or two to sit down and read. That's just not how media is consumed anymore. I guess.
What you meant to say was 2 hours was too much of a good thing.
Absolutely.
So
right, but I do hope that is condensed. But I mean, just personally, it is it does work both ways because I read the for better or worse, I read the Game of Thrones. I did not brag to everyone that I read the books before I saw the TV show, but I have no interest in seeing the TV show because I read the books, and now George R. Martin has decided to completely drop the books, and now I'm sad. But that's the risk I take.
But he himself was a TV writer. That's the thing. This is a guy who got his chops on chintzy TV shows back in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course he knows how to be episodic. But forget George Martin. I like the TV show Game of Thrones. A lot of people, I don't go gaga for it. I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world. It's not even my favorite TV show.
Right.
But I understand that it's a phenomenon, and I understand why people like it. And I'm really happy because the success of things like Game of Thrones means we're going to have more chance-taking television like
Right.
you've seen on Netflix and Stars and everything. I actually think it's the death of network TV. I can't imagine how network TV, with all its regulations. By the way, all you net neutrality people, there you go. No Game of Thrones for you.
You
But
Yeah,
But
and go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I'm just saying I'm ranting. Like you
Right,
said in the opening, I love to.
right.
But the fact of the matter is, I think people maybe not appreciate the fact that you live in a very interesting new golden age of television, of which practically everything that comes out on TV is good
Right,
in
and
some way.
there's 2 points I wanted to make here. The first one being, you say it's the death of network television. I think network television sees it as well because I mean we just had an article we didn't delve too deep into earlier in the week, but I think it's CBS was
Mm.
launching their new streaming service, and I'm totally not for every single TV station having their own individual streaming platform. That's it's going to get too complicated too quickly. But you can definitely see that network cable television is certainly heading towards streaming in some sense, even though I kind of feel like they're muddying up the water. But regardless, I did want to get back to Game of Thrones for a second, and I kind of wanted to get your take on the fact that what do you think about the piracy rates of television? Because
Oh yes. Oh, certainly. We've talked about
H
this before.
right,
They
but I kind of bring it up again because the most recent Game of Thrones series premiere shattered all the records. And by some measures that we saw, I mean they kind of counted that it had like 16.2 million or something like that, which was more than any other cable television. So like HBO, a premium channel, beat all the other channels that are
mhm.
cheaper, more
because
accessible.
because people want to watch it.
Right,
You see, that's the thing. That's why HBO Go became a thing. When HBO refused to for the longest time, they rolled out the internet service, which divorced it from having to have it on a cable package. People still bootlegged it. HBO is loving. Make no mistake, HBO loves the fact that people are bootlegging Game of Thrones. They are not an advertised rate service. HBO does not get more money if more people watch.
right,
HBO gets more money if people buy. And the thing is, to expand the audience, right? To expand the audience, if you're watching Game of Thrones from a bootleg, you're talking about Game of Thrones. You're still participating in the language, which means you are in fact advertising Game of Thrones. If you go to your friend's house and you watch Game of Thrones but you don't pay for it, it's the same as you bootlegging it as far as HBO goes. They're not getting money from you. And make no mistake, they when you actually line up the numbers of the most bootleg television and movies,
hmm
they typically line up with the ones that make the most money anyway.
right.
So there's an adverse effect, and I'm not trying to say that I
Bootlegging is
as a
good.
yeah, I'm not saying to say or Computer America is advocating, but let's acknowledge the reality that this is something that happens. People do it all the time, and there's some leeway with it. And musicians have recognized this for a long time. You're not going to go to Best Buy. You're not going to buy a CD. You're not going to put the CD back. You might bootleg the music, but if you like the music, you'll probably go and buy a ticket to go watch the person perform.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's the way Game of Thrones is. It's you have to advertise.
We've
There has to be some method of advertising.
we've seen it with other mediums as well, and and I promise we're gonna move on to another story here soon. But just to throw some other numbers out there, I mean it was like 16.1, 16.2 to like The Big Bang Theory's 15.8 or something like that. So
Okay, that show is terrible.
I
If you're bootlegging that show, you
I
get what you
like
pay.
it. And by the way, these numbers they are not the bootleg. These are the strictly cable
Exactly.
measured viewers.
Exactly.
What they measured as the bootleg, they said that 90 million times it was either streamed, downloaded, torrented. Obviously there's going to be some overlap. Maybe you streamed it and then you downloaded it, and then you torrented it. So there's some overlap there. But it said, they said that, and like the majority were coming from countries that just strictly didn't have good access to HBO. Be it Germany, be it the UK, places like that. I mean, yeah,
That's
90 million
that,
times.
you know what's funny though? That's kind of like when on Popzara we talk about the video game sales and we talk about the Nintendo Switch, for example, right?
hmm
Where we count the numbers every month through something called NPD, and we say the top selling system was the PlayStation 4, but in reality the story was the Switch. If Nintendo made more Switches, they'd sell more Switches. It would be. HBO for whatever reason has a bottleneck where they've either their distribution network isn't quite up to par or it's not spread out. Whereas you see something like Netflix, which is investing billions of dollars not only in content but in networking and strategizing and
And
making sure
licensing, right?
exactly that people have it. If this is probably never going to happen, but if Game of Thrones were a Netflix show, the numbers would be 10 times higher because the distribution would be 10 times better. Whereas HBO is really set up for something that was really modeled after the 1980s, which was a pay prescription service. And not to get off the topic or anything, this is not one of the stories I wanted to bring up,
Right.
but I read this. I saw this interesting story about self-driving cars, and I forget what municipality it was. It was something in California or something, and they said they're going to roll out self-driving buses and taxis. But to do this, right, Ben,
Mhm.
that they're going to have to change the way highways, change the way streets are, because that's how they're compatible with the cars. And I thought to myself, that's a lot like network TV. In 20, 30 years, what are the streets going to look like, right? Because you just can't put self-driving cars on the street and expect everything to run fine. I never thought about that. You have to change the streets. Same with Game of Thrones and TV. What is TV going to look like? Is it going to be streaming only? Is it going to be DVR? Is it going to be beamed in? It's not going to look the same. And until they solve this problem that they keep presenting television like it was 30 years ago, you're going to have shows like Game of Thrones that people desperately want being bootlegged all to hell because people want to watch the show. By the way, you won't see that numbers for Keeping Up with the Kardashians. You won't see those numbers for crappy reality shows. It's going to be for shows of immense quality that people really want.
Right. It's fair points, and this was not a topic that we were planning to get into, but I mean, it's just interesting, all of it around interesting. But to get back to the topics at hand, and folks, just want to make this clear that at computeramerica.com, underneath today's show notes, you'll find all the articles. I might even throw some of the ones that we just talked about in there as well. But getting into the topics that we had planned for today, you'll find those again if you want to do your own research, if you want to look at them, blah blah blah. But yeah, they're in there if you want to track it down. And I think a good place to start, and it's not even Google because that one's a little heady. We'll get into that a little bit later. Let's do something fluffy. And I can't think of anything fluffier than Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates' bank accounts.
Okay, first of all, this story, this is how fast news runs. When we originally talked about this, I showed you this story. It was a different headline. It's a different headline again. So the original story was, as reported by everybody under the sun, was that Amazon's Jeff Bezos had become the world's richest man.
Mm-hmm.
Short-lived. It's Bill Gates again, because after some aftermarket trading where Amazon sales actually fell flat and didn't reach quite the zenith that they thought, shares dropped. Bezos is down to either 2 or 3 again, so he's back where he was. But you know what's funny though, is that if you actually look at Bezos and what he actually does versus what Bill Gates does versus what Buffett does, you see this rise of Silicon Valley billionaires like Zuckerberg or the guy from Snapchat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a parallel story that I don't think I want to talk about because frankly there's nothing to talk about. But you also heard a company like Twitter is doing wretched. How many times have we talked about it on this show where I prognosticated that I think Twitter would eventually be the first major social network to go away.
Yeah.
And it looks like that's happening. And I think there are reasons why it hasn't happened yet, but it doesn't seem to be enjoying the success of a Facebook or even an Amazon because it doesn't do anything. But the interesting thing about Amazon, unlike Bill Gates, we've talked about how Amazon's purchasing or trying to purchase Whole Foods, right? How they're trying to get into the physical business, which is interesting because they spent the last 20 years eliminating those businesses. So
perfect time. They have created this. Yeah, they've created this void, and now they're looking to fill it.
Yeah, you don't really see this type of billionaire anymore. You do in Mexico with Carlos Slim. And I forget the person who did a very cool name, by the way, the clothing line Zara. Just love the name. Needs a pop. But
yeah.
But these people became billionaires over manufacturing. You don't see that because everything's been geared towards Silicon Valley, which creates a bubble, right? And so when that bubble pops, which Ben, it will, then you're going to see a lot of deflated billionaires. I don't think Bezos has set himself up for that. I think he has positioned himself to eventually become the world's richest man and probably take the title for a very long time.
There probably was a time that Amazon could have popped. There probably was a time when they ran all the physical bookstores out, but then people weren't buying Kindles and e-readers, and they weren't buying as many books on e-readers, or at least not paying the same price. Like there probably was a time that they were strictly software enough that they could have collapsed, but now. No, it seems like every step that Amazon is taking lately is how do we get into people's physical homes, be it, grocery delivery, be it, these plants that are, in people's states that will deliver next day. Like everything from Amazon lately has been physical, and it's great.
And, just a year or so ago, we were talking about the failures they were having at trying to mimic companies like Apple and mimic companies like Google. And, and how many times have we spoken about this where, when a company as big as and critical as Amazon spends its R&D research on copying, that's never going to work. That's why the phone failed. That's why a lot of these services failed. But the more Amazon focuses on direct interaction with the consumer, the better they do. The fact that they've been so prolific with, the Amazon Echo is extraordinary. That's a market that Apple should have taken away. They were the first one. That is a market that Apple failed. That is a market that Google is playing catch up in. That I don't know how successful it is.
Right.
Amazon is a very interesting company. They're one of those companies that's so invasive and so disruptive in positive and negative ways that you want to root for them, but on the other hand, you kind of want to protest them. But on the other hand, you want to root for them because their prices are so awesome.
Yeah.
I hate you, Amazon.
You have that thing where, kind of America's kind of built on the idea of competition, capitalism, blah, blah, blah. And Amazon, as convenient as they make shopping, as awesome as a reputation that they have, and, you're kind of like, oh, yeah, now I don't have to go, a second, a third place, a whatever place to buy shoes, clothes, groceries, toilet paper, and, something from China. Like, there's probably an antitrust or an anti-consumer lawsuit coming
talks.
up. Yeah,
there's talks about it. There's been talks about that for a while, specifically with altercations with booksellers. But I think there's no other nice way to say it. In this new America we find ourselves, interest in pursuing antitrust legislation, antitrust investigation has been reopened.
Right.
It has to do with the acquisition of Whole Foods. We shall see. We shall see. I'm of two minds of it. On one hand, I just want to, slow clap and say, Amazon, you rock. You've been doing so well. On the other hand, a lot of brands that I grew up with and I loved have been decimated because of Amazon. Not because of Amazon, because of their own negligence, and they didn't see this coming.
Right.
You talked about CBS a minute ago, how CBS has their own streaming service, right? Do you remember 15, 16 years ago when Napster was the rage and everybody had their own streaming service and they all failed, right?
Yeah.
And then the consolidation around iTunes and then eventually things like Spotify is what drove the music industry forward. We've talked about it before. Consolidation, the idea that you don't have to be the boss, but you can contribute to this system that works. That's really the way it goes. Not everybody can be the market leader on every avenue. And I think Amazon is primed to be that distribution channel.
Amazon
literally,
is primed.
I know, you get it.
Yes, yeah. But no, you're absolutely right. And it, and again, all this circles back around to the fact that Jeff Bezos, I'm not sure of his strict, investment in Amazon. Obviously, as the founder and of course still CEO, he has a lot of capital, $90 billion. Due to strong Amazon stock prices. Of course, that does not mean he has $90 billion in capital just lying around, nor does Bill Gates or anyone else. But his wealth, just like you said, it dropped a little bit. And, Bill Gates, who's
a smidge.
Right. And Bill Gates with Microsoft went up a little bit, and now he's reclaimed the throne. I mean, they're billionaires, but they're more another metric to measure company success with. It's not individuals.
Well, it's also one last thing. We've talked about this. I keep saying this. We keep talking, but we've talked about so much.
Yeah.
But they're also foundational iconoclasts, and this is very important. I don't give two flying poo-poos about the Snapchat guy or even Mark Zuckerberg to some extent. We look at these people, and as much as America is built on the idea of egalitarianism and symmetry and fairness, we love our billionaires. We love our Titans. We love our Carnegies. We love our Rockefellers. We love the Steve Jobs. We love the story about the guy who or the women who become so powerful that they can literally create thousands of jobs with a whiff of their finger.
Right.
And Bezos wields such power. Like I don't know if you saw the follow-up story to this, but Amazon's going to be hiring 50,000 people in one day. They're going to open up new centers across the United States. That's unheard of.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
Oh yes, it's amazing. This is what happens. And for all of you people who poo-poo capitalism, this is where jobs come from. As much as he may put mom and pop out of business, which sad to say he does, he's going to employ mom and pop's grandchildren and their aunts and uncles. And this is exciting. This is very exciting. I hope it signals a trend.
Right. It's exciting, of course, for Computer America because Amazon has never been afraid of technology. There's some that they feel that the best way to make jobs is to shun technology that would make things more efficient and, put people back to work doing things that are repetitive and easily automated. Instead, Amazon, they're not shy. The people that work in the distribution factories, well, they try to put a good spin on it, but they work those people hard. And then when those people, kind of complain and say, hey, you're pushing us too far, they say, well, the only way around this is to get a robot in here. And then what do? They get a robot in there. And, it's not that it's like they put a person in place as long as they can. And then when it doesn't work anymore, they'll automate it. And Amazon will continue to do that. I mean, they're doing it with the whole grocery store thing. You walk in, take an item, walk out. I mean, it's...
Wait a minute. We call that stealing.
Well,
No,
they
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they track your face. You have a barcode. You scan your iris. It's dystopian, and you get a little jug of milk for $3. But yeah, no, it's again, it's exciting for Computer America. It's exciting for technology because they're the ones who want drones. They are the ones who want automated warehouses.
Your hero. What's his name? The
Elon
guy
Musk,
from
of course.
Elon Musk. He's very similar in a way, but he's more theoretical. I think I'm not a big fan of Elon Musk because I think his failure rate is higher than his success rate. But he is putting his money, he is putting subsidies towards space rockets and hyperloops and Tesla cars. That is interesting to me. Like I just heard that SpaceX is worth like $20 billion. That's incredible. And if we're ever going to get to the moon, if we're ever going to fly to Mars, which I want to, then it's not going to be from someone like Zuckerberg. It's going to be from someone like Musk, probably on an Amazon spaceship. The future's being written. It's interesting. It's very interesting. And I think they should be applauded because you have people with vision who are going to get the vision by doing manufacturing. As much as I love Snapchat and I want to look like a dog, but at the end of the day, I'd rather fly to Jupiter. And I'm not going to fly to Jupiter on a damn iPhone app. So I want to get there on a space rocket that doesn't blow up.
Right. It's going to take these kinds of people, but regardless, so that was the article. Jeff Bezos, you're right. It was published like yesterday, and in the meantime, he has slipped once again. But
Fake news.
But really, I mean, it's a measure of billions when you're talking almost $100 billion. It's to most people, even I'm sure to themselves, it's nothing more than a headline and a click getter. So there you have it. So, we have about 2 more minutes. Let's introduce our next topic, and then we'll get into it after the break. But let's see, we have a couple more of these. And let's see, you have an IMAX to screen more Hollywood tentpoles in 2D. Why not that? Because, I mean, television, the 3D television bombed spectacularly. That is something that is brought up every time we have a TV manufacturer here on the show. But, ever since Avatar, there seemed to be that inkling that, hey, maybe there is a market for 3D IMAX and things like this. I mean, what drew your eye to the fact that 2D seems to be the preference for, well, media?
It's more inclusive. You talk about 3D all day long. I'm not one of those naysayers, although I sound like it, that 3D is going to die and no one wants 3D. Of course, some people want 3D, and it can be used effectively in things like Avatar and things, films that are equipped for it. But the vast majority of people, A, subconsciously don't like paying that $3 to $5 uptick. 2, the movies usually transform into some sort of gimmick when 3D is the main attraction. You'll have a lot of first-person roller coaster scenes or things flying at you in the face, and they're usually gimmicky movies, and that's fine. But those things fade. Every single horror movie in the 1980s had the one 3D movie. Like Freddy had a 3D movie, Jason had a 3D movie, Jaws had a 3D movie. Everyone, and every sex movie had 3D. But by the way, sex in 3D, it really doesn't work like you think it would, right? And if they can't make TNA in 3D, then nothing helps. But as far as 3D coming home,
right?
Total failure for reasons we can get into later.
Yeah.
But the theaters was a little surprising, and it just I think if you talk to the average Joe, I think they'd rather pay less and have a nice, clean presentation as opposed to a gimmicky 3D thing.
Right. Very, very, very well said. And yeah, we'll get into this, of course, because, IMAX, I think they don't treat the medium right, where, things like jump scares obviously add another element. But hey, again, we'll talk about this coming back here. Computer America, Nathan Evans, Popzara Magazine, and of course, Computer America. We'll be back right after this.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour. We have Nathan Evans, Popzara Magazine, Computer America, back at it again. And if you are just joining us, welcome into the program. Oh, crap. Now that I actually think about it and actually turn my brain on for a moment. Before we get things started here, Nathan, if you don't mind, we have a winner to announce for our contest. So let's actually pull that out right now as we have this fancy new app. By the way, Nathan, I'm not sure if this is something, if you do contests or whatnot at Popzara, but believe me, it's a fun application. Definitely try it. And yeah, so
all our readers are winners.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
But yeah, so we have the winner, and let's see, drum roll. Here we go. As I find it.
You want me to drum roll?
That's a good one, but we have this one as well.
Okay, cool.
There we go. I like yours better, but there you have it. Today's winner is Miss Caroline Noli, who listens to us in Springfield, Oregon, and yeah, Carolyn, thank you so much. She won by entering using Facebook. There's, like 8 different ways to enter. You can try them all out. But she won by entering Facebook. And Carolyn, if you're listening, thank you so much for, for subscribing, for entering the contest. And of course, thank you for listening. And everyone else out there who is not named Caroline, well, that's okay. Maybe we'll be announcing your name next week.
And Carolyn, it sounds like you're in the better part of Oregon. You lucked out.
Springfield. Not familiar with it personally.
But I just want to reiterate, when I said all our readers are winners, that is true, but some readers win more than others.
Why is that?
Because they enter contests. So, and you can't listen, this is not a charity. You want to win, you got to play. You got to put your name out there.
Absolutely, and she definitely did. So, Caroline, again, we'll contact you after the show via email, and yeah, we'll get all carried out. And everyone, once again, brought to you by Logitech. So, with that being said, back to the news, back to the stories, and yeah, we're talking about this one: IMAX to screen more Hollywood tentpoles. Tentpoles, everyone, and please, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they mean, just kind of the big blockbusters, the big movies.
Yes.
In 2D, and they're citing a clear preference. So, it's not like Hollywood didn't give 3D a chance. Let's say over the past 5 to 10 years, almost every theater I know of at least had one IMAX 3D screen. So, it's not like they didn't try, but I mean,
well, it's another thing that's in play is that you have to think about the way films are filmed. Right? We keep using the word film, but we don't really mean film anymore. We mean digital in most cases, although some still do film. But you have to look at the format. You have IMAX format. You have 3D. I forget the name of the technology. But you have
there's
cameras
like Red Eye. Yeah. I think it's called Red Eye.
Red Eye, and you have a James Cameron special camera, and most of the movies in 3D are done through what they call post-conversion, which means they've taken movies that were filmed for 2D and they make versions of them in 3D. And people can usually tell. There's usually problems with CG. There's usually problems with coloring and lighting. For example, I remember a few years ago I went to go see Star Trek Into Darkness. And it really was Into Darkness. The film was so washed out. I saw it on IMAX, all washed out, everything, very dark, everything. Went to go see the film in 2D, and I swear to you, I apologize in advance, but you could see the butts on the characters so much better. There was cleavage. I know that sounds crazy, but they were washed out in the 3D. 3D effects are more washed out. The things that are rendered have to be rendered down to 24 frames a second.
Right.
You mentioned Lord of the Rings, right?
Hmm.
You remember when the Hobbit movies came? A couple
Oh,
years
and
back?
there were riots in the street when they
Oh,
went to
yes.
48.
Yeah, there was because certain parts of the films were filmed in what is it, 48 frames a second, right?
Right, right.
But if you talk to people who saw the film, and I did not, but if you talk to the people who saw the film in IMAX 3D,
I did.
those
Yeah.
those portions of the film that were more CG were more appropriate. The frame, it seemed better suited because, as the listeners don't know, most movies are filmed in 24 frames a second. So CG, of course, is rendered at 60 frames a second. And so when you have this mishmash, it has to be down converted to 24. But filmed in 48, down converted to 24, projected onto something else. So when people say they hate the format, what they really might be hating is the implementation of the format.
Right.
And when it comes to 3D, let me just be clear. Most people who direct movies are not good at 3D. You have someone like Spielberg, you have someone like James Cameron, you have a few others that are spectacular with 3D. The movies look spectacular. I'm actually going to go see Terminator 2 when it hits theaters again. I haven't seen that movie in theaters in 25 years.
Oh, yeah?
I can't wait to go see it again. So, but in 3D, I don't care about the 3D. But then you have people like Christopher Nolan, which is the bane of this story, where he doesn't do movies in 3D. He doesn't like the technology. He refuses. And they mentioned that the new Blade Runner movie will be shown in 2D. Yeah, some people like 3D, and if you like it, go fine. But as we've said on the before, the technology was always doomed to fail at home
Yeah.
because it doesn't take into account the format, which is the home, which means you have other distractions. Doesn't work, and everyone needs a pair of glasses. 3D also failed in video games spectacularly on the PlayStation, spectacular on Xbox and PC. The only signs of life it ever had was on a Nintendo portable console, and even Nintendo themselves has discontinued that. So 3D, we'll see you in about
It's
20 years. You'll
yeah.
be back 20 years.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even hold my breath for 20 years. First of all, you can't. But second of all, I really wouldn't, because I feel like whatever experience you're trying to get out of 3D, you are essentially trying to, bridge the gap between 2D movies and television, which doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon, nor should it. And you're bridging the gap between virtual reality. And I know your thoughts on virtual reality. I know you think it's a gimmick for a little while.
My views have been justified largely. I'll just say
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But at the same time, it's a young technology, but like I feel like there's no room for 3D if VR catches on eventually. Eventually.
I agree with that. Immersion, true immersion, even if it's 2D, will beat 3D fake immersion any day of the week.
Right.
And look, I've also said, just to be clear, I have no problem with VR. And most of the problems I have with VR are the same problems I have with 3D, which is implementation. And for the same reasons I say 3D at home is going to fail, I say VR at home is going to fail, which it has largely. Expense, bad implementation, and the fact that most of the product available on VR is absolute garbage. And you'll notice that a lot of the initial things that were destined for VR, Ben, were films. And every major studio has pulled out. Because, they didn't pull out because the technology is not good. They pulled out because no one bought the damn things. You can't charge $800 for a mediocre VR headset on computer technology that's already outdated. So this is a problem we're going to see. Look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be right. Maybe everyone will have VR. It'll be like Ready Player One.
I really do think that it. Come next year. If we have this conversation again, you will. I don't want to be aggressive and say you'll be eating those words, but I've heard.
Well, put your money where your mouth is. I'll bet you lunch. I'll bet you lunch.
Absolutely, and I'll
bet you lunch.
Absolutely, I will buy you a sandwich. And it's this thing where I think it's like Oculus Rift said that they were working on a $400 instead of an $800, which again probably should have been the price point from the beginning. You have other companies that are looking to bring down costs, cut the cable, make it truly wireless. And, things that probably should have happened from the beginning, but they're getting there. And it's going to take one of those to get VR out there, because
I gotta, I gotta,
$800 with
I
a
gotta be
cable.
honest with you. I gotta be honest with you. I could be totally wrong. I could be totally wrong. Some cheap VR headsets could come out. It could change the way everything is. I would like nothing better than that. You know why? Because if you're going to be someone at home all day watching whatever you watch on VR at home, that's
Hmm.
one less idiot outside driving into my car on their listen, playing on their smartphone and 3D on their self-driving car. So if whatever keeps you dangerous people at home, good. Go buy an Oculus.
You know who's investing in VR technology, which I kind of should have seen coming, but Audi. They're looking at VR and other formats of entertainment because they know that self-driving cars, they are what they are, and they know that's cars are essentially going to become waiting rooms on wheels. So they're looking for ways to entertain the passenger as cars ferry
Yes.
you to your destination, and VR is one of those answers.
Like what we talked about with the streets changing and the distribution channels changing, if self-driving cars were to even invade about 10% of the market, that would drastically transform what entertainment on the road stands for. It would completely change everything.
Right.
And so who knows? I mean, I'll just say this. Let me just clarify this, caveat this. I think VR at home is probably destined to fail, but VR on location is probably destined to succeed
Right.
because it could be augmented with budgets, with experiences that would be very hard to replicate at home. Not saying I'm right. Again, you heard it, folks. We have a bet, so we'll bet sandwiches.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So, and there we go. I think we'll leave that there. We have plenty more topics to get to, but 2D trumping 3D. I think that was probably obvious because again, most movie theaters converted one or two of their screens into 3D or IMAX 3D or what have you. But if it was really what people wanted, we would have seen further expansion. So it's probably not a bad read on the market that that they're kind of pushing here. So there you have it. More 2Ds. No one is surprised. All right. So let's see. We have a couple more. And how about Google? I feel like we haven't been mad at Google enough lately. So let's get mad at Google a bit, or happy in this case.
Which one? Which one?
I'm gonna take not the Google Play Music one, but the one that stopped showing the auto search results.
Yes.
That have gotten so many couples in trouble due to weird Google search habits. But
We saw this one coming. I'll be honest. I like the searches you type. I do but I can understand why people don't like it because sometimes you don't know how to spell a word, or you forgot, or you don't know exactly. So you sort of play with the system and you hope Google helps you. I mean, how many times have we all used that? Like, that movie star. Oh, that's right, what he said.
The worst feeling in the world. Like that in autocorrect, where it's like you're trying to spell something, you're trying to look for something.
Oh, you have to fight it. You have to fight it.
But it's not even that. It's like, hi, I'm Google. I have the entirety of human existence at my fingertips, and I have no idea what you're going for here. You are so stupid. I can't even take a shot in the dark, sir. It's like, ouch, that hurts, Google.
Here's the thing. Here's the real reason they're probably getting rid of it, because they've been dealing with the realities. Now, I'll make this story very short. AI is on everyone's lips, correct? AI. Well, you'll notice that every time that there's a major implementation of AI, most recently, of course, with Microsoft's AI bot,
Right.
There's always accusations of racism and sexism. Oh, we made this AI and it spews forced racism. It voted for Trump, which was hilarious. So, but let me ask you a question. Is that a bug or is that a feature? Because have you not been online, Ben? Have you not listened to people on Twitter? Because that's what they are. That's what people sound like on Twitter. They sound like racist, sexist, homophobes.
Yeah.
And so Google was getting in a little bit of trouble. And there's been stories, I don't know if we talked about it, where people would type like black men in and then it would autocomplete jail, or
Right.
black men in prison. And what Google would do, Google would start censoring. Like another one was Holocaust denialism, right? all the greats, right?
Yeah.
And they would start censoring the autocorrect. And after a while, you're censoring autocorrect because it's politically insolvent. At what point do you stop censoring? Because the answers are uncomfortable. Because the whole purpose of Google Type was to sort of share the aggregation search results from a myriad of different sources. And therefore, because they play the odds that if you're searching for something, you're probably searching for something that other people are searching for. But it turns out when other people are searching for racist, homophobe, sexism, yeah, Google doesn't want you seeing that. And this is really part and parcel of the whole campaign to get rid of what they call hate speech. Whether you think that's good or not, I think there's valid points on both sides. I think Google's job as a search engine provider should be to provide search results. I do not think their job should be to manage search results. I don't think they should be to edit search results
And
or
they've gotten
choose.
right, and they've gotten in trouble for this multiple times. Of course, it's the thing that you mentioned way back in the beginning of the show that anti-competitive practices in the U.S. really don't kind of fan out for for lawsuits and litigation things like that. But at least in the European Union, the EU, they have dinged
Mhm.
Google hundreds of millions of dollars
Many times,
for being
but many times too. Many
yeah,
times for
exactly,
this.
for being anti-competitive and manipulating. I'm sorry, manipulating their own search results
Yes,
for in favor of their own products and services. So,
absolutely.
like,
Yes.
yeah, they've been caught doing it. But you're right. At what point do you kind of say, well, you kind of have to, but don't do it too much. But do it in a fair way, but don't do it in a way that would help you. And it gets very
Well,
confusing for Google.
I disagree with the EU on that one. If Google's providing you a service for free, Google's not charging you to search on Google. If they want to promote their own businesses as for providing me the internet at my fingertips, sure, I'll look at your services. I get it. Google is not a right. And the EU has a tendency to label everything a right. You have a right to this, a right to this, a right to this. You don't. You really don't. And if you're coexisting the right to Google search with the right to freedom of speech, then you have a very skewed definition of what a right is. So
And here's one where way at the beginning of the show I said we don't always agree. This is one if I'm gonna start saying it explicitly on the air, this is one where I don't agree because even in the U.S. Where the United States is the smartest, greatest people. I know I said everything twice.
we're the
Here,
best,
yeah,
America.
we're the bestest here on Earth. But at the same time, we have legislators, people writing the laws in this country, who say that it's Google's job to take down, child porn and drugs and illegal activities. Like, it's not a far stretch to think that some people, no, not even some, the majority of people think Google is the internet. Like, if it's not found on
Well,
Google, it's not available anywhere, which is not the
well,
case.
that's true. But Google's not the internet. There's Bing.
No,
There's well,
absolutely
I
not.
was going to say there's Yahoo, but
Uh,
no.
but but but,
Uh,
but I mean,
there's
there's Bing,
DuckDuckGo.
Yahoo, there's DuckDuckGo, there's the Tor
Well,
browsing network. Like, there's another internet that you don't see beyond Google,
I'm
but people
gonna,
just think
you know
Google.
what? I'm gonna split the difference and say I halfway agree with you, because Google has entered into the world of web hosting. They have entered into social networks. They have entered into things that they can be considered services. That you basically have a expectation of privacy, you have an expectation of quality, and maybe we'll get into some fuzzy language there. Okay, so yeah, I'll agree with half of you. But on the other hand, though, I don't really think it's Google's job to get rid of child pornography. I don't think it's
No,
their job to get rid of drug things.
of
That's
course
the
not.
law's job, and maybe to erase a search result. But for a fact, I want your listeners to do this. Even though I said I don't endorse torrent search or torrents or bootlegging, I want you to do an experiment for me. I want you to go on Chrome or Google, and I want you to search on Bing. Sometimes Google will hide results because certain advertisers have asked them. For example, they don't put torrent searches. They don't put certain
Right.
news sources on there. They do elevate certain news sources higher if they're part of their aggregation service. So my problem is this: and we're not going to solve this anytime soon. But Google takes sides in who they project, and sometimes, and we've seen this with other social networks, Ben, where the results they give can have the effect of social management. It can have the effect of actually changing the thought process and the way that people respond, because people are lazy. You put in Red Riding Hood, you get 40 billion results. You're going to look at the first three. So if the first three are the most
Page
influential,
two, page two through 100,000 may as well not exist. They can bugger off. I
woo,
mean, that is it's
exactly. So it's just this is a bigger topic than we have time for now, or even a week. But the fact of the matter is, this was coming because the results. There's my joke again. The results were actually uncomfortable for Google,
right.
and this is a good way to basically just cut ties with the service. By the way, if one last thing, this is what Google does.
Yeah.
This Google makes cool stuff, and it's got a little bug, and they get rid of it. So this is what Google does. Don't. It's like getting a goldfish. Don't name it. It's not going to last.
Oh, that's
So
not nice. Goldfish. I had a goldfish that lasted 7 years. His name was Goober. He was awesome. But
Well,
all
look at
right,
it this way: not too many pets are so easily flushable, Ben.
yeah, I've tried. It's not easy. I have this 100-pound dog. Just gets in the toilet but
Didn't
can't
work.
be flushed.
Nope.
It's crazy.
It
But
takes a while.
right, but no, you're right. This is a topic that we're not going to solve for Google. Google, if you're listening, send me an email. I'll work it out for you later after the show. But in the meantime, we have other topics indeed.
Yes.
So, yeah, and again, I'm going to kind of skip over the Google Play Music and YouTube Red merge.
We'll just say Google Play, Google Music merged. Boom.
Right. And I was about to say, unless you have any any concise comments, we covered it yesterday during our news segment. So you can listen to yesterday's show.
It's same as the search. It was inevitable that they'd converge these services because eventually, I use Google Play Music. I don't know, is Computer America available on Google Play?
Yes, it is.
Well, Popzara is too,
right.
and
Very awesome.
it's hard to find. So Google, if you merging with Google YouTube Red makes the search results easier, I'm all for it.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we're gonna skip over that one because we did discuss it here on the show. But one that we didn't touch on was Apple. And Apple, they are definitely they're one of the few software companies that started in hardware, kind of developed their own software platform, but kind of stuck with the hardware. Like they're all about the hardware. And one of their not even best sellers, but one of their more iconic lines has been discontinued. So you pick this one up. Sadness is what you have to say. So why this story?
Because this is the first time in my life I went through a product cycle. So for those of you who don't remember, long story short, there was no digital music service before the iPod. There were MP3 players. They were all garbage. So the thing that saved Apple from
are you gonna sit there and say the Zune was not a viable product? You're gonna sit there and say that.
If you have nothing nice to say about something, you don't say anything at all.
All right.
But look, the fact of the matter is, we both know this, Ben. The iPod saved Apple. iTunes saved Apple. We all know this. Apple became synonymous with music, and that element of music is what made the iPhone successful. Which of course gave us the iPad. Now you can't see it, but in my hands, I have the sole surviving iPod. It's called the iPod Touch. I've talked about it on the show. I'm in love with the iPod Touch. It is basically an iPhone without the phone. Basically a mini iPad. It is now the only surviving iPod. It's the only one. And Apple, what did you do? You're ashamed? You can't even find the thing on the website. You got to go under music, and there you'll find the iPod Touch. So, but you know what? If you got an iPhone, you know what I'm talking about. It's got full iOS. It's got all the apps. It's got Siri. I could ask Siri a joke, but it would not be funny. I use it all the time. I've actually done this show on the iPod Touch several times.
I have a friend who just to I don't know if it was a cost saving measure or just a personal preference, but he did replace a phone with an iPod Touch, and he used things like Kik and WhatsApp and what have you for messaging people,
it's all
and
there.
Skype for calls. Yeah.
Skype. I do, as well as I do, Ben. I do multiple shows and I do multiple appearances. I could webcam if I actually wanted to show you my beautiful face, but I wouldn't want to set a precedent. So,
right.
But no, Dropbox. I use it for everything. And people say, well, why don't you just get an iPhone? And I say, well, why don't you just get an iPod Touch? Well, I want my phone calls. Exactly. I don't. I don't want people to call me all the time. I don't want people to know where I am all the time. I really don't. I get all the joy of iOS and mobile without paying for it. So, but I have a feeling, Ben, that the days are numbered.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that this might be one of the last. So, Apple. But
it's okay because Android is really good at bringing out products that other companies have labeled defunct.
That's the thing, though. There's never been an equivalent Android.
Not really.
To the iPod Touch, and it's been. I don't mean this with any disparity. I like Android, but Android tablets have failed. Right? Android phones have largely failed, except for a very, very small number of manufacturers. And we've seen the product cycle lose out and everything. Whereas we've seen iOS dominate certain markets in that small market. I'm not trying to say that I don't mean dominate in a way they've destroyed everybody, but when it comes to the iPod, there's no mistake. The iPod was it. It was the product. You had products like the SanDisk, the Creative Zen, the Zune. You had things like this. But at the end of the day, it was the iPod. It was so iconic. We make podcasts because of the iPod, and it's gone. And Apple has now flushed the cycle through. They've acknowledged that the iPhone's their biggest product, which is both great and worrying if you're into to a diverse portfolio.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I love the iPod Touch. It's sad to me it's the last one. I feel very old right now, and I'm too young. Like, I remember before the iPod. I remember during the iPod. I remember now. I can say I remember after the iPod. It's very weird.
Yeah, and it's I'm trying to think really full-fledged standalone products. You buy it and that is it. I'm not talking like keyboards and mice or things like that, but with the leaving of the iPod line, what is kind of Apple's bottom dollar for a product now? Because you can't say iMac because those things are $2,000 a piece. And I guess like an iPhone at like $700, or like an iPhone 5C for like $400.
Well, I should also say that the iPod Touch represents like you said, an introductory product. And I know for a fact, I talked to a lot of app developers. They buy iPod Touches for dev testing, right? Before you deploy on iOS, you can't buy iPhones for everybody, so you can test this. And if you have kids, you're not giving them an iPhone 7 to play with.
Right.
No way. They're gonna get boogers on it. You give them an iPod Touch, they can just throw up on the thing and wash it off. But you're right.
My point is,
iPod Touch, there's no intro.
Right.
I would say because the products specifically the products they finally killed off with the Nano and the Mini, I would say we're probably going to see more with the Apple Watch. We're going to see some sort of convergence with the Apple Watch. But I don't know. I'm scared they're going to discontinue my poor little iPod Touch. I feel like one of those preppers where I should buy like rice and beans and put them in my bunker. So maybe I should go to Walmart and buy a bunch of iPod Touches.
I've never heard of the term technology prepper, but I don't think it would work out too well.
Well, talk to your Linux guy. I'm sure he's got a copy of DOS in his basement.
Our last segment was actually about how to run DOS and run old DOS games, and that was a lot of fun. Hey, go check it out. It was like third Thursday of the month.
You and George R.R. Martin.
Yeah.
Holding out for a return of WordStar.
He was just, I swear to God, he talked about an author friend, not that author, it was another author friend, pretty well known. And yeah, he only uses the old DOS word processor.
Stephen King.
Yeah.
King?
Not Stephen King. It was a personal friend, writes science fiction, and yeah, he just says he likes the non-distraction.
That's why you don't have another Game of Thrones, because he forgot to do save on his WordStar.
Oh my God, I would not doubt it. Oh man, that is awful. But yeah,
man,
but you're right. And the point I was trying to make was that with the Nano and and the iPods just going out left and right, I feel like Apple is starting to raise that ceiling of products with iOS on them. $200 is like the new minimum instead of $79.
Well,
so,
I just thought of something. There could be one other thing, and I'll just leave it at that.
Sure.
Apple Music has been very successful for them, and Apple Music has been their first commercial software that's available on Android, right, and Windows. Perhaps maybe that the bottom line is something you already have. Maybe it's your Android phone. Maybe that's the new bottom line. Could be it. It could be Apple transitioning to a service.
Could be, or could be that Apple is all about the numbers lately, and the numbers just didn't line up. I mean, it could be something as simple as that. So,
could be
sadness,
though.
Yep, sadness. iPods, they are, they're here for now in a limited sense, but for how long? For how long? All right. Wow, we have like not even a minute left. So, everyone, we had one more story that we didn't get to. We kind of touched lightly on it yesterday, but we didn't really get to it. Flash. Adobe's live too long, talking about product cycles. Flash is on its way out. It's the final pieces of the puzzle, and they are collapsing. And any quick comment here about Flash dying, because everyone seems happy. No one seems sad.
90 seconds.
Flash being available on Android was a major selling point.
Right.
So, but I'll say this. Now that we got rid of Flash, can we all collectively work on stopping the damn autoplay videos that go on when you go on websites? Can we all get together?
Google's working on it, yeah.
Yes, please. No more autoplay videos on websites.
All right, so speaking of websites, real quick, Popzara, what do you got going on? What's happening at Popzara?
Oh, lots of fun stuff. Please go see the new podcast. We got a lot of cool stuff, especially if you're into fighting games. I don't want to give a deal, but there's going to be a special treat next week. And probably in the next 2 months, it's going to look and feel different, finally. And you know what that's like, Ben, so that might be fun.
Absolutely. All right, very good. And again, we have a link to Popzara and all the articles over at computeramerica.com in the show notes. Check it out. In the meantime, Nathan, thank you so much. And again, we'll catch up, do this again next month. Thanks again.
Yep. Thank you, Ben. Always fun. Have a good weekend, everybody.
All right, have a good one. And everyone else out there, thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. Another week safely ready to go. And, if you want to listen to the podcast, any old shows, computeramerica.com, as always, is your resource. Also, iHeartRadio. I should promote that more. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
10 seconds.